Hey guys, and welcome back to the third of the Let's Code finance tracker. I've done quite a few changes, and I'll be honest with you, I've kind of lost track of some of the changes that I've made, what with having a big gap between the previous video and this one, but I kind of think I know, the important bits, and you'll probably notice if I miss some code, you'll probably think, hang on, I haven't got that bit, and you can just kind of add it in, but I'll go over the bits that are the most important really. So, what I've done to start with is, obviously we left off with the summary page being kind of just static and just kind of generating the budget. Before I start on that, actually I should probably mention a change I made on the setup page. So I was thinking about the code for, like, if someone puts a 0 in front of the number, that's going to be really inconvenient. So all I did was I used a little bit of code here, obviously before, which did the whole cannot be a decimal malarkey, so that worked, but then I kind of added another bit in. I can't remember if I put this in the other video or not, so I'm going to just mention it now anyway, but we want to make sure that the number basically doesn't have a 0 in front of it. So if it can't be like £01, because that just wouldn't make sense, so it needs to get rid of any zeros. So all I've done is, after this bit of code up here, I've kind of just removed the zeros at the start. So all you do is you do the total budget text box and you set it to itself .trim start, and then you trim whatever character, in this case 0. So that gets rid of any zeros no matter how many they put in there. But then as soon as if they enter 00800, it will only trim up to the 8 and then keep the other zeros in. So it just gets rid of all the unnecessary stuff at the start really. Then I can't remember if I did this bit. I probably did, just kind of like adding the currency. I'm pretty sure I did this and the setup complete stuff, so I'm quite happy that I can just kind of close that. So the main thing that I did, which I really hope isn't going to confuse anybody, because it confused me a little bit when I first did it a while back, so I'm going to try and make this really simple. What you need to do is you need to go to Solution Explorer on the right, you need to right click on your application, and you need to manage your Nugget plugins. So in here you need to enter Toolkit, and it will search online for all the available bits and bobs of the internet, and with any luck I'll get what I want. There it is. So I've already installed it, but when you want the Windows Phone Toolkit, this one here, and mine's got a tick at the moment, but if I click on this one to show you, there's just an install button, and if you just click on it, click install, it'll be like installing, and then it'll be like done, and then obviously you're done, not to point out the obvious. So then I'm not sure if your line of code will go in automatically. Some people does, some people doesn't, and some people complain and some don't. There's this line of code here which I'm going to scroll along really slowly just so that you can see it. It starts here with the XMLS like toolkit, and basically it's like the namespace Microsoft Phone Controls Assembly Microsoft Phone Controls Toolkit. And all that line really means is, yeah, alright, you can add some new tool. So you can use toolkit, the semicolons, or colon, I can't remember which one this is, and then the date picker. Because what we're going to need is, we're going to need this date picker, because I was thinking about it when I was making it, and I realised that, as the months go on, you're going to want the application to kind of know what month it's in, and then you want to be able to open up previous months entries and like new months and that month. So I just thought that would be a cool idea. So basically we're going to add this little bit here. I would kind of, you can feel free to try and type this out, but it's going to be a lot easier if you just head over to the student dev website, which you'll find in the description, and then go over to the Let's Code part of the website, and then you'll see the finance tracker, and I'm uploading the XAML code in there and the C# stuff. So, and at some point I might even put in the finance apps. I think I've got the finance app, the whole application, up to the second video, so you'd download that one to start this video, but I'll add some more on there obviously. So yeah, that's that bit anyway. What else we've done is, obviously we've got these withdraw and deposit buttons. Now withdraw, you always think red because it's going out, and then green because that's a good thing, it's coming in. So that's kind of how I've done these little buttons. Then obviously they've got their own click events, so you've got deposit button _click, and then you've got the withdraw button _click. So now over to the summary page. Now this was a lot more bare when we had it in the previous video. So I've added quite a few bits. Again, if you don't want to type it out, just go onto the website and download the code, just copy and paste it in and it will work. Providing you have named your buttons the same as me, like withdraw button, deposit button, date picker with the capital P, that's important. Then like the transactions list, which is just a list box with a list box item template and a data grid, and then the actual grid, the template, sorry, with the grid inside it, which is basically 2 text blocks, because we're going to want one that actually shows how much money, and then the other one that is going to be the reference, so why did it come out, and then with a little like side note of the date as well, because you might set a date, you know, it might be like the 6th of December or the 4th of December that you took the money in or out. So here we have the this little class here for the transaction listing. Not too much really important there. You will kind of come to light further down, so I'll close that. Here's a function which is load transactions, and then the string is the date. Now the reason I did this is because I realized after writing it without this this little overload here, basically people need to be able to choose what date they're on. So the phone will automatically choose its own date and work out what month it's in from there, and it will ignore, I mean, it's in the format of month, day, year, and it will, in the code that we've written, you'll see in a minute, it ignores the day, the actual date. It will just take the month and the year and then get the information from that. So here we've got try and a catch, basically just to make sure that there's like no errors, because when they first open the application up, this is going to try and load because of our little bit of code down here on the application page loaded. So once the application actually loads this page up, it's going to try and get the listings, and of course if you're new to the app and you haven't entered anything yet, then it would have crashed. So we've got that try catch for that reason. So then what we do is we literally just do list transaction listing, and then we call it listing equals new list, and then we kind of start getting to business. So when we're adding the requests, which you'll see in a minute on the other page, I'm adding them as app settings and then requests dot to string, and then basically I'm splitting all of the values with this line. Now this is a character that not a lot of people use, and I've stopped them using it. Again, you'll see in a minute. But anyway, so we're making just one huge entry into the isolated storage. Like, this is just one way that you could do it. I'm just doing it this way to show you that this is one of the methods. And then basically what we do is we'll split the string on these lines. We'll take away one because there'll always be one more than we need. Again, I'll explain that in a minute. And I've got a message box here showing that it's really unnecessary now, I don't need that. And then we've got the while loop. So while I, which is starting off as 0, is less than the total amount that was in the application settings, it will keep running this chunk of code. And what this code does is basically it's all commented for you, so you can read it in. Again, I'll upload all this to the website. I'll upload this exact code. So what we're doing is, when something's being entered, it's a bit of information followed by one of these wiggly lines with more information, another wiggly line, more information, and then the straight line. And what we're doing is, this would in essence be an example. So what the code would do for this is, first of all, it would split it on the line. So it would say, okay, so up to here, there's our first line, that becomes 0, and then our next line is here, that becomes 1. Now there's no more. So because it would technically see 1 here because it's this side of it, it would see 1 here because it's on this side of it, but it will then look on the other side as well. That's why we have to -1 on the length. Then once we've got this bit of information, we go down here, we'll end up, so let's say it gets split 0, so then we end up with just this bit here with our line. What happens is our code will say, right, split again. This is what I've just called this little split string, and we'll split it this time on the wiggly line. So we're going to split it here, here. So then we've got 0, 1, and 2. Now what we can do is we can use this information, so we know that in 0 we used one bit of information or whatever. So again, I'll explain this in a second in the other part of the application where we add and remove money from the like, I don't know, the finance transactions. So okay, then we have some local string and here, which is color and sum, because we want to know if it's going to be red or green, if it's going to be a good or a bad, if it's going in or out. Okay, so that's that bit. And then here we have the string, which is being split on the spaces. But what basically is happening here is we've got, this is the temporary thing for trying to work out the date that's been passed over. Now, again, the date was in 3 sections. You've got the date, you've obviously got the month, the day, and then the year. So what we're doing is we're doing split again, and we're getting the split on the space and 0. So that's just doing one massive split in a line. It will all make sense. And then we're basically splitting it on the like forward slashes, because as you can see we've got 12/5/2014. So the reason that we do this is because we want to split the data. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So anyway, you have to split the data on these forward slashes, obviously, because of the month, day, and year. So we just want to know what the month is and what the year is. So we take split 0, which would be this piece, number 12, and we take split 2, because this goes 0, 1, 2. So then we add the 0 with a slash to the 2, which in turn would give us 12/2014. So that is our month and year. So that's how we're going to then determine what information we want to gather. So then here we have the MY, which is the month year I made. So here we'll have 12/14, and we'll check the date. And now date in this situation is what was passed through with the function. So this is when they say, okay, 12th, or they'll change that to the 11th. So like November of 2014 or October. So then that will know which month we're trying to find. So if it matches the month that's been selected, then it will start to run this code, and it will say, okay, here we go. Now we're going to start getting all the bits apart. So the third split of the information contains withdraw or deposit, so we know whether it's coming in or out. Then it will set the color, and it will set minus if it's getting withdrawn, or a plus if it's getting added, and then setting the color again green and red. And down here what we have is basically the text value and the color value and the reference value. So in our list box we have text block here, which the content of the text is text value. So in there we're going to have sum, which is plus or minus, plus a space, then the currency, whether it's a dollar or a pound sign, plus split again 2. Now this is going to be the value that's passed over, and I will show you that in a minute where that's coming from. So then you've got color value. So color value equals color here, and that is going into the binding on the foreground of this text, so that it's going to make the text red or green. And then as you can see here we have the reference value. Now that's going into the other text block to tell us what the transaction was. So here we go, we've got the split 0 because that's where the reference is on this split list. Then we're going to add a little line here, and then we're going to put the date in after it, the day included. So it would be month, day and year, so that we know exactly when this information was entered. And then we do listing add, and we add all of this new information. So we've got our text value first, followed by our color value, and then our reference value. Obviously all of this where it says new transactions listing, that's getting passed into this little cheeky class here. It's setting all the values for us, and ultimately once it's gone through, so it'll plus I, and then if there's another one, there's like more than one split, then it will go again, and it will keep going until I is equal to the other. So then we have transactions list.item source equals listing. So all this time that the while loop is running, this listing is getting bigger and bigger, and so our source can then actually be populated in the list box. So that is the code so far for the transactions. Then here we have the deposit button click, which is basically moving over to our request page. So on our request page, which is the page where we actually do the transaction, whether the money's going in or out, we have a value, a public value there, which is withdraw, and it would be false if they hit the deposit button, or true. So what we're doing is we're setting it to false, then going to the page, or we're setting it to true and then going to the page, and that's going to make a difference. Again, I will show you in a second why. Then we have the application load. Again, we're just using that same split code that just puts the month and the year together to then actually pass through to load the transactions. So that's on the application page loaded, which obviously you click on the page, and then you've got the event. Sorry, I've clicked on the wrong bit here. So that's our loaded thing. And then you've got the date picker value change. So if they click on it and they change the month because they want to see their finances for a different month, then it will again do the date splitting of what's left, and it will load the transactions again. Okay, so that's that bit's simple. That bit is very simple. So now the request page. On the request page, we have, again, make sure this line's in here on this page, this toolkit line, because we're having obviously another date picker, or the same date picker actually. And then what we've got is we've got some text up here, which is the title text block. We've got the text block here, which is the label to just tell them how to use this block, this text box, which will enter the amount into. Then we've got another label here, which is for the reference text box. And we have another label here, which is obviously for the date picker. So what we have is a finish button down here, which has got a green border around it now, and as you can see the text at the top is yellow because when you load the page, whether or not, so here you've got like this static boolean, which is the withdraw. Now on this page we sent over our navigation with true or false. So if withdraw equals false when we go to this page, then the page will load and it will say if it's true, do this. Give it the title of withdraw from budget, set the foreground to red, set the board brush to red, and set the request, which is the string in this page, to withdraw. And if it's not withdraw, then it must be deposit. So deposit into a budget, set the color, because I wanted it to be the exact color, I'm just picky, and set the request here to deposit instead of withdraw. Then what I'm doing is I'm using this little bit of code I found on the internet, which is get color from hexa. And what that does is that just allows you to enter a hex code into here, into this little function. It will basically convert it for you into a solid brush color. It's just a nice little bit of code that I thought I'd show you because I found it and I thought it was pretty cool. So anyway, that's for setting your own hex colors. And then obviously the finish button has some work to do. Not a lot, just a lot of checking. So basically when they hit the finish button, there's a try around it and a catch to say that they must enter an amount, because if there's no amount in there then it's going to crash it straight away, because the first thing we do is we try and turn the value that they've entered into a double value. So what we've got is the if statement now. What we have is the value, whether the value is more than 0, because if they're trying to add 0 or take away 0, then it's just ridiculous. Like, that's just not, you don't do that. You have to have a number to work with. So if the value is more than 0, then run this code. If it isn't, then you must enter an amount greater than 0. So then there's some more code here explaining to you how this is working, but what we're doing is we're just saying if it contains one of these upright lines that we're using to split with, or it contains a curly line, like a wiggly line, or if it contains a forward slash, or if it's not, or if it's equal to 0, then it should fail, because I've put an exclamation mark here, which means if not. So if it's not equal to 0, then do this code. Otherwise, you must enter a reference and cannot use the characters this, this, or this. So that basically just helps them understand what ones they can and can't use. Most people won't ever get to that point of putting the wrong information in because no one tends to use these characters, but for the awkward few out there who do, it will warn them not to use them and it will remove it for them. So then once that's done, we've got the chosen date. So the date picker, where they've set their date in here, we're just going to basically take that, pick a value to a string. We're going to split it straight away on the space and put 0, and that's simply because the date picker, when you use this, believe it or not, actually adds a time as well. Although you can't see it, when you try to get the value of it, it gives you the month followed by a space and then the time. So as you can see, I've written out here for you to kind of understand. It gives you the month, the day, the year, space, and then the time. We don't want the time, we just want the month. So all in one line, what we've effectively done is we've got the date picker value to a string, we've split it on the space, and then we've declared that we want the first split that is found, which would be this bit, because it is before this space here. And this would obviously be 0, and then this would be 1. So the 0, again, there's our chosen date. What we then do is we then say, okay, has this user used this application before? Have they made a request? If they haven't, if they basically, the first thing it would do is it would say app settings .contains requests. So if it contains the string request, then it will run this code here, which will basically get the current stuff that's in the isolated storage, put it into a string locally here, remove it from the storage, so that we can then re-add it to the storage with the existing content that we had before, plus the chosen date, this is where it will all come to light now. So the chosen date will go first, followed by the reference text box, text. Okay, so you can see our wiggly lines are here now. So then another wiggly line, plus the amount, plus another wiggly line, plus the request, whether it was withdraw or deposit, and then our line on the end. So that then allows us to do the split in that other page. And if there doesn't contain the requests, then it will just add it. Obviously it just does, it says add requests, which is the key name, and then it just does the chosen date straight away without using this existing, because there is no existing data to add. Then we just use navigation service go back. That bit is simple. So now let me just stop boring you with the code and show you what actually happened. Now this probably was one of the most confusing little examples I've given on a Let's Code tutorial. So I think if you really are struggling with this, just download it. I will make sure I upload this application to the website. Just head over, download it from tutorial 3, and just make your life easier, because the next ones shouldn't be as hard as this. So we start. I'm going to make mine pounds, and I'm going to now show you the example of if you had zeros in front of your number. So I've entered 00001545. If I click finish, all that comes over is the 1545, so it trimmed all those zeros off for me. The remaining budget, we still aren't doing any maths yet, we're literally just working out the withdrawals. So here people can click to November, or they can go back obviously to December, so the day that is actually today obviously is the 5th of December. I can say, okay, I'm going to withdraw. And here's my example. So 0.1 would be 10p, and 24 would be £24. So what I will do is I will do £2.99, and I'll say it was on food. So that's my reference here. Oh, this is food. And I took it today. Today was the day that I bought some food, and I'll hit finish. So what's happened here now? If I go to November, you'll see there's no information in here, but in December, on the 5th of December 2014, I took out £2.99. Now obviously in this situation I've accidentally come across £5, which is great, so I'm going to add £5, and you can add 500 like that to make it look good, or you can just add 5 on its own, and then I'm going to say reference for this, found some money. And then as you can see, when we're doing deposit, this is green, this finish button's green. You can see everything you're doing is depositing. Now I'm actually going to go forward a day and pretend it's tomorrow, and I'm going to say on the 6th of December I found this money. So I'm going to hit finish, and as you can see, our budget has gone from taking away £2.99, and then on the 6th of December I found £5, and it says here my reference was £2.99 on food, and here my reference was found some money. So that's basically how this code works. It's probably confused the hell out of you. It is confusing, really quite confusing, because I wasn't sure how much I had and hadn't already demonstrated. So, I mean, if it's confused you, I apologise. Go take a nap or something, relax, and just download the solution directly off the website. Or, as usual, I will just upload the XAML code and the C# behind each page if you want to maintain your application. So again, thanks for watching, guys. This was a really confusing one. I apologise again, but obviously don't forget to check me out on Twitter, check out my Patreon page, and also check out the website for all the resources, and don't forget to subscribe, of course. So I will see you in the next video.